Welcome to the MWA podcast. I'm Kyle, and joining me today is my co-host Sean. We're excited to have Bob Miller as our guest. Bob is an outstanding furniture maker, millwright, teacher, toolmaker, and a free-range eccentric. He operates his business, Mass Woodworks, out of the Charleston Furniture Makers Community Shop, which he also manages. So welcome to the show, Bob.
Hello.
Hello.
Here.
Yeah, good to have you,
fantastic. Man. It's great to have you here. And I can't wait. You seem to be a man of many, many talents. North Bennet Street School graduate, I believe, too, as well as doing some instruction there, too. So can't wait to get into that. But before we do that, I'd like to say that our podcast is proudly sponsored by Sutherland Wells.
Sutherland Wells knows that exceptional craftsmanship deserves an exceptional finish. That's why they handcraft their full line of low and VOC exempt finishes and stains using the highest quality, cold-pressed, sustainably grown tung oil. Their unique polymerization process delivers the deep penetrating, grain-enhancing, non-yellowing protection of tung oil, while reducing the drying time and allowing the finish to build a beautiful, durable film. Sutherland Wells, the timeless look of traditional oil made for the modern woodworker, and use code MWA25, that's the numbers 25, for 10% off your first order.
And we'd like to thank Sutherland Wells for their sponsorship of this episode. And we'd also like to give our patrons a thanks. So who do we have to thank this week?
You know, we always like to give those patrons a big shout out. And today we're giving that particular shout out to a friend of the show and a Bennet Street graduate as well, Rex Hansen. Possibly, Bob, you know this guy. And I'm sorry if you do, not really. Just kidding.
One of my students.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if you would like to join Rex in supporting the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/MWA podcast and help us out there.
Fantastic. And thanks so much, Rex. And thanks so much for all your recommendations on guests. I think Bob might have been one of your recommendations.
I believe so.
I believe so. But
Rex was awesome. Bob, if you don't know, and if he didn't mention us, he was like every quarter, I think he came on to kind of meet with us and let us know what was going on, and what he was learning, what the classes were like. It was very cool kind of peer into the North Bennet Street School.
Well, that's great. Rex was a great student, did great work, great advocate for the school, and I know is constantly talking about us and telling everybody to move to Boston and go to this weird stuff. It's great.
Exactly. Well, fantastic. Well, thanks again, Rex. And let's move on to what's in the shop. So what are you doing, Sean? You still working with your neighbor and a chainsaw? And
no, I mean, wait, did I go back? I think I did go back again because there was some more wood down. But just today, he got some tickets for this weekend's Michigan game. So I get to go up and for free.
Oh, nice.
He gave me tickets. So I will take that payment because that's like it's just south of $400 for 4 tickets. Face value. So I will I'll take that payment for having a chainsaw and helping out a neighbor. But no,
well, hopefully they're playing a Division II school this year.
Yeah, they are. I mean a MAC school, but still. But I am 100% buried at work, and so I have very little energy when I get home. But beyond that, over the last couple of weekends, actually my wife and I were taking a walk and we saw my neighbor down the way, kind of the opposite corner where I live, who was like, he had this dethatcher that he had rented and he was working in his yard. And I mentioned like, hey, I got a thing that can clean that up pretty well because you're leaving a bunch of this brush, thatch in your yard. And he goes, oh, really? And so later that day I came down and I spent a couple hours cleaning up his yard for him. And the next weekend it was seeding time, so came down with my aerator and aerated his lawn, and he's got a 10,000 square foot front lawn, which is large, large, and so spent a fair amount of time just kind of early, it wasn't early morning, but Saturday at 8 I was up on machinery, working that yard, and now mine's a week behind that, but I'm planning on doing the same. So that's what we are. We're in the tail end of summer, and so fall lawn care is in play for whatever time I get to spend with it.
Oh, well, fantastic. Well, I can only hope that, someday you'll move next to me because you're the kind of neighbor I need.
I will say, so that conversation came up with my running group. And it was like, oh, I wish my husband, because I run with a bunch of women. That's neither here nor there. But I wish my husband was handy. We got this going on. I got to pay for this. I got to pay for this. I said, you know what? Sometimes it's not always great to be handy. Now, I don't make nearly as much money as your surgeon husband that can pay for that stuff, but I get asked to do a lot of things,
right? Because
I got a lot of tools and a lot of skills, and the flip side is not always rosy. I mean, it is what it is. But I will. Kyle, should I ever move down to the sweaty area that you live in, I'd be happy to be a helpful neighbor.
You get used to it. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm sure I would.
Yeah.
Pushing 50 years in my climate, I don't know, buddy.
Yeah. Well, the humidity down here, it keeps the wrinkles at bay, so to speak. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. I'm not concerned, but okay.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
Thanks, Bob. Yes.
No.
Us nor'easters have to stay together.
Yes.
I'm not
Cold
quite
is the
coastal
correct temperature.
like Boston. Cold is the correct temperature. Ooh.
Yes.
My wife, despite
you don't like 95 degree temperatures with like 90% humidity. It's fine.
No, humans are not meant to live in that.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, I'm on the west end of Lake Erie. We get a period of high heat, high humidity.
Yeah,
it's not the norm, and so it's funny because Kyle and I have this back and forth whenever we mention weather, and I say, "Oh man, it's sweltering in July." He goes, "Yeah, it was kind of cool today. It was only 88 degrees with 90% humidity." I'm like, "Ugh."
Yeah. Yeah, it's rarely 90% humidity. Mid 70s to mid 80s.
But your backyard is a canal that touches the Gulf of Mexico. So
exactly.
I'm just saying, like you got water in the immediate vicinity.
That's right.
So aside from that, my lawn work, Kyle, what are you working
on? Absolutely nothing but resting. I'm recovering from my broken collarbone. So listeners, last when we left you, Brian had our resident doctor guest host had convinced me to go get this thing checked out because I thought I just maybe had a mild separated shoulder. So I went in, they took some x-rays. I go, oh great, now they're going to want an MRI and all that stuff. And the doc comes in and he's just like, yeah, you got a broken collarbone. Not like crap. But he said it broke in the place, the preferred location, so to speak. So no pins or plates or any of that kind of stuff, no surgery needed, just needed to rest, try not to move it very much. They gave me this brace to wear as well as a sling. And, so I have been just taking his advice, haven't done crap. I've just basically laid around, watch TV, occasionally work at the computer for a little bit, but that's been just about it. But it's feeling much, much better. It's not 100% by any means. It's probably more like 60%, but there's no pain, so to speak, anymore. And
that's good.
Anyway, but I go back to the doctor tomorrow and we'll see how it's healing because he was like, normally a break like that, he goes, it's kind of a gnarly break, but it should heal in about 2 weeks. But someone of your age could be 3 to 4 weeks. So tomorrow will be like the 2 week thing. So I'll probably go in and get some x-rays and see how it's doing. But so far so good. So
have you tested range of mobility or is that?
I have I don't try to test it. I just find myself doing things, it's like I can now touch my nose with my right hand. I couldn't do that before, stuff like that. So
hey, little things.
Little things. Yeah. That's the only thing that sucked is because I'm right-handed. And of course it would be my dominant side that
that's why you felt that way.
Yeah.
Dominant side.
So anyway, but I think the prognosis is good, but I haven't done anything. I've gotten a few orders for jigs and stuff, and luckily I've been able to reach out to those folks and say, hey, I broke my collarbone. It's going to be another 3 weeks where I can get back in the shop and make it. And everyone say, oh, don't worry about it. We'll
make sure you're right first.
Yeah Send it to me when you can. So I've been very appreciative of that. Only had one guy that was on a deadline that couldn't make it, but besides that, everybody else has been really cool. And I mean, that's fine with him. He's on a deadline. He needed it right then, and I couldn't give it to him. So hey, completely understand that.
Good.
But yeah, so that's about all I've been doing. Have been doing a lot of reading, catching up on some stuff, both woodworking related and otherwise. So that's been, I guess stuff that I normally wouldn't get around to that I've gotten around to. I always say, oh yeah, I need to, I got so many Lost Art Press books I haven't read. I was able to crack open a few of them and, and start on them. So that's been good. So anyway, Bob, what about you? What have you been working on in your shop?
I am building workbenches. They're big ones. They're 47 inches deep and 65 inches long. And they're for a K through 8 school in Pennsylvania that is restarting their woodworking program.
So nice.
Fantastic. So I'm thrilled to support that because we need more people learning how to do things, particularly young people doing it. So
when I was in shop back in middle school and high school, are these the benches that like have a quick release vise on every corner of them?
They are. Yeah, it's going to have one vise at each corner, so there can be 4 kids around each bench. Cabinets underneath, and not crazy thick. The tops are going to finish at 2 1/8 inch. They're glued up right next to me now. We glued them up at 2 3/8, and have to do some surfacing to get them down to the right dimension. We'll see what we yield after surfacing, tear out, getting rid of all the glue and the various misalignments in the glue ups. But I think
is this like a 2x4 lamination, or what are you making that top out of?
It's European beech.
Oh wow.
Okay. Yeah, this school wanted it first class all the way. So the tops are European beech, mostly quarter sawn, glued up at laminations that are 1 5/8 by 2 and change. Bases are European beech as well, with knockdown hardware, and then the cabinets are all pre-finished Baltic birch.
Wow.
Nice. And I'm building 4 of them, and they deliver in October.
Is it? I mean, I don't know what your normal work is, but being this massive and relatively square, is this sort of like a kind of a welcome relief to just kind of knock out large projects and batches like this?
Well, so this is what I've been doing the last couple of years. In the last 5 years, I have built 40 workbenches, give or take.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Of various designs. A lot of my work is supporting other people doing work.
Okay.
It's what I want to do. It's why I build so many workbenches. It's why I make tools. It's why I work at the school. It's why I manage the shop here in Charlestown. And so this is right in line with the body of work I've been doing for the past number of years.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm actually stacked up with bench commissions from now until maybe February, possibly longer than that. I'm talking to another client that is interested in doing some shop design work and commissioning workbenches in deep winter.
Okay.
Wow.
So you make benches to whatever design somebody wants. So you're just not stuck with, hey, I'm only making, the European style bench or the Rubo or whatever.
Yeah, full custom. I've done bookbinder workbenches, jeweler workbenches, a couple of luthier benches. Talking to an upright base maker now who might be interested in one. He's got a real nice bench now, but he's thinking about moving. And in moving into a new shop, he wants the perfect bench. When you're ready, you let me know.
Cool. Yeah,
I don't know what. Like I've seen other instruments made on pretty standard benches. I don't know what an upright base maker would need. That's a kind of a large instrument.
It is. I've done 2 other luthier benches for North Bennet grads. North Bennet Street School is not just furniture making. We actually have a bunch of other trades in the same building. One of them is violin making. And so when I was a student, I lived with violin makers, and I've made benches for 2 of the guys that I lived with. And they look a lot like our benches. They just have a lot more dog holes and are very different proportions.
Yeah.
That are taller. They're up high too. The luthier bench that I most recently made was like 42 inches tall. It's
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like a total standing desk and you're working. Yeah, interesting. Just a focus on being able to control those. I mean, obviously curved surfaces, those instruments. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, on your website, you have this old mine jeweler's bench. Easy for me to say.
Yes.
I hate that word. Jewelry. I can say that. But anyway, that is just a fascinating bench. It's a gorgeous bench, but it's just fascinating about because it looks like, I guess you got a little bird's mouth there for them to use a fret saw to cut metal and stuff like that. So that's cool.
Yeah, the old mine bench, cool. That was a good one. That one's actually still in my house. That one was made for my partner when we got married, and that was my wedding present, was building that bench
nice.
for them. And so
Nice
they're a
wedding
jeweler. It only
Okay.
took until our almost third anniversary to finish it, but process.
Yes,
And so it's the bench pin that comes out the front has the little bird's mouth cut in it so that they can support flat sheet and cut it the same way we would cut marquetry. It's very similar process. It's just a much finer saw. And the thing I'm most jealous of is that their scrap is valuable. So as a result, they get paid for it.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I know. What was it? New Concepts. They have some interesting jewelers fret saw type things that looked amazing.
Saws.
Yeah, looked amazing. I remember talking to them at something, and they had one set up, and goes, "Yeah, we're planning on making a woodworkers version of this, but that was 10 years ago. I haven't seen it yet."
They did make the woodworkers version. It's the exact same as their jeweler's saw. It's just $400 and something. So as a result,
they did. Okay.
Yeah, you can use it as a woodworking coping saw. And any woodworker that's using that as their coping saw is doing it just so that other woodworkers see how much money they spent. It's not making them a better woodworker.
Of course. It's just bling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Not saying it's not a fabulous saw. Don't get me wrong. Don't come for me, New Concepts. I like you.
They're great.
We do know a guy that's got a Chevrolet. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we do.
So if you know someone that wants one, we know a guy. Anyway, well, that is absolutely that's stunning. I like that bench. But well, before we move on, Bob, could tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up and how you got into woodworking.
Well, I'm originally from North Carolina, but I was an absolutely terrible Southerner, so I moved to Boston as quickly as I could.
Oh, jeez.
I was terrible Southerner. If I didn't look so much like the rest of my family, I would swear I had been adopted.
Understood.
I was always the weird kid that was building things. That every kind of building toy I could get my hands on, that's what it was. So that made me think that I was supposed to be an engineer like the rest of my family. And then I went to college for engineering, and I took calculus 3 times.
Okay.
Successfully on the 3rd time, I will have you know, I am proud of that C-.
Yep.
And it really led me to the conclusion that engineers don't make things. They do the math so other people can make things. And I didn't want to be that person. I wanted to be the person making things. So I went deep into woodworking. I had always done some woodworking as a young kid and into my teen years. And then when I got into college, I got involved in a program through the university where there was a wood shop that I could have access to for $45 a semester. And that came with a small storage space and access to the shop. And so I was in there constantly. And that period, I was a member of 3 wood turning clubs at once. And yes. And I discovered that 2 of those wood turning clubs are fierce rivals of each other, but shared 20% of their members, which very interesting situation.
Can imagine. Yes, you could wear the wrong hat to the wrong meeting.
Where you go to one meeting and this is nice presentation, this is good, and then you go to the other meeting, and then one guy says, "Don't tell them that I'm here." Oh, okay, this is a little weird. You're all talking about the same stuff here. You're all wood turners. Why the rivalry? And I got a job working at a retail woodworking store as one of my part-time jobs in college that was similar to like a woodcraft or a rockler, but a little more industrial. There were only 3 or 4 of them in North Carolina at the time. And I had a customer that had been to North Bennet Street for one of the community education classes, one of the short weekend or 2-week classes. And he said to me, he said, "You're young, you like woodworking, you should look into this school." And so I did. And I booked a flight to Boston and went for an interview. And I was like, these are my people. And so when I graduated without my engineering degree, got a history degree instead. And I moved to Boston to go to North Bennet. And it was by far and away the best decision I've ever made.
Nice. Now, did you meet your wife there at North Bennet Street School?
I did. They were in the jewelry program.
That's what I was wondering, because I went with my wife years ago when they were in the old building, and I go, we were in Boston for some. I got to go by North Bennet Street School and just look around. I didn't even realize they had a jewelry department, but my wife rather enjoyed that, and that trip cost me a little bit more than I was thinking it was going to cost me.
The old building, the new building, the North Bennet Street School new building is better in every measurable way. It's got better systems. It's got more space for our students. It's got more space for our faculty. All 9 programs are back in the same building. It's air conditioned. It's great. The old building was funky and weird and charming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't been to the new building yet, but I remember the old building. It was pretty funky. They gave me the nickel tour real quick, and then my wife goes, "Oh, that's a really nice bracelet." And I went, "Okay."
Oh, shucks.
It's probably a hinged cuff.
No, it was something it's silver bracelet, but it's like everything's linked together. Kind of like, I want to say like chainmail, but it's not chainmail.
I know the one you're making. The jewelry program, the jewelry program has a very tightly controlled series of exercises that every student makes. Yeah. And my understanding of it, being adjacent to the jewelry program, is that there are fewer routes to fewer goals in jewelry than there are in woodworking, where where you can learn how to make something by making something else in woodwork. So if you can make a nightstand, you can make a coffee table. They're basically the same thing. It's just a size thing.
Yeah.
Whereas in jewelry, there is a far less overlap. So as a result, if you don't do a certain project, you miss a set of skills that's absolutely critical down the line. So as a result, the jewelry program, every student does the same series of exercises. We update them through the years so that they're applicable to the modern world. But I know exactly the one you made, because there's probably, I think they still have it.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. My wife loves the bracelets. She wears it all the time, so it's
that's great.
Our students do good work.
Yep. Oh yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
It's very, very, very nice. Very nice. Well, so Bob, tell us about your business, Mass Woodworks. So how long have you operated that?
I've done my own work for 13 years now. It's been under the Mass Woodworks name for about 8 of those. And prior to that, it was me. It was no actual name, just making things.
Right.
And it's gone through a lot of changes. Now it's tool making and workbenches to support other trades. But I've done commissioned furniture work. I've done built-in work. I've done some repair. I've fortunately been able to not have to take on repair commissions. I've always kept multiple jobs so that I don't have to say yes to every single woodworking job that comes along, because I don't want to do repair and I don't want to build bathroom vanities.
Right.
Yes.
Understood. Yes.
So it's all custom work, and fortunately I can be reasonably selective over the jobs that I take so that I can do the ones that I think need to be done, not necessarily the best jobs, not necessarily the ones that I think are the ones that are going to bring prestige or notoriety, because I'm not interested in any of that. I do the jobs that I think will make the world a better place, hence why I'm building workbenches for 5th graders.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Well, one of the things that you make, as far as your tool making, is some of these marking gauges. These are absolutely gorgeous marking gauges. Tell us a little bit about the tools you make, especially these marking gauges.
Yeah, well, so I only make 2 tools right now. One's a marking gauge and one is a bookbinder's finishing press.
Okay.
So the marking gauges came about just because of the collapse of commercial tool making world, particularly around the marking gauges, where in the North Bennet community, we have had the same type of marking gauge for over a century, and it's a cutting gauge. So it's got a beveled knife in it instead of a pin. And it allows you to do some stuff that you can't do with a pin type gauge. And so as the tool making world changed, the full-time furniture department solved the problem by having the students make their own marking gauge as part of the first semester, which is great. We all spent a couple of days making a marking gauge. Some of us did it well, some of us didn't do it so well. And then we had our marking gauge and off we went to do our work. The problem with that is that the lesson in teaching how to make a marking gauge is not a particularly good lesson for woodworking. It's also a very difficult thing to teach to raw beginners in your first semester.
Mm-hmm.
So as a result, some students didn't make a good marking gauge in their first semester. I was one of them. My first semester marking gauge is bad. And if you don't do well making the marking gauge, your future work then suffers. So
are you using the self-made marking gauge in your continuing work?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Because there was at that time, there wasn't one available out on the market that the instructors could just say, go buy this one. And so it worked out fine. In the communication department where I work, that wasn't really a viable option because in a 2-week class that's a hand tool fundamentals class, we don't have the ability to make a marking gauge. It's just not practical. Can't commit 5 days of a 10-day class to making a marking gauge. So we kept buying the commercially available ones, and their quality just kept going down and down and down and down until they finally got to the point of where we were spending 3 or 4 hours just to make these gauges functional. And then they quit being made at all. So it wasn't even an option. So I saw that as a need I needed to fill. And so I set about making a production run and finding and designing this production model. Fortunately, the school was willing to commit to buy 20 of them at a pre-negotiated price that was quite cheap, just so that I would have enough funding to find out whether or not it was feasible.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that initial research run, and they came out pretty good. And the furniture department decided that rather than committing a couple of days in the first semester to making a marking gauge, they would just put mine as the tool list. And so I went into business making them. I make them every couple of years. I do a big batch of them and make a couple of hundred at a time, and then they sell periodically. I do have the fancy ones. I'm sure you're looking at the very fancy ones and saying, oh, those are really nice, which, I like those as well. But I like the plain beach one because it just works. That it's not, it's not a prestige piece, and it's not intended to be. It's a tool, and it works just as well as the engraved brass and Wingate one. That one's pretty.
Yeah, that's a gorgeous one. I like that.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
I will admit that. Yeah, I will admit that one of the engraved brass ones didn't make it to market and just stayed in my private collection because, well, my friend Paul Jasper did the engraving on those, and I know Paul. He's a nice guy. He does really nice work. The collaboration was a bunch of fun, and one extremely gorgeous. So I was like, oh, that one's just gonna be mine. Yeah, and it was. And so, it's one of the perks of the jobs of making the marking gauge.
Exactly.
But I make every single part of it except for the thumb screw.
Okay.
So I manufacture the knives myself. They're made out of W1 tool steel, which is one of the softer grades of tool steel. It's a water hardening steel, but I think it is the perfect steel for a marking gauge knife because it is not so hard that the edge is actually going to chip or crumble like the more exotic tool steels that a lot of the tool industry has gotten obsessed with in the last couple of years, all the D2 and powderized metal and all that stuff. Because it's a little softer, it can get really sharp, but if you drop it, it just bends a little and you hone it out and it's fine.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And like you said, you have your fancy ones that are $700, but this standard European beach marking gauge is only $80. And
I wish it could be less.
And it's a lifetime tool.
Yes, that's the goal. The goal is that you buy it once, and as long as you reasonably care for it, you should never have to buy another one.
Yeah.
Not a great business model for me because, eventually, I really should start getting on this planned obsolescence train that everybody else is on. That you use it for a couple of years and then it fails, and then I sell you another one.
Yeah. I had that same comment from a person that bought my jigs not too recently, who was a guest on the show. But anyway, I don't want to out him here, but anyway, he bought one of my stretcher drilling guides, and then he gave me a comment back and went, "Oh, this is a lifetime tool, isn't it?" And I went, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." So yeah, the planned obsolescence is not there, but that's the way you should make them. You should make them for a lifetime.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And you have a good tie-in with the school, where that might be a little longer in as they keep bringing people in, that they will look for yours. It's not a bad tie-in.
No, it is a very good audience that I have every year. A new crop of furniture students get introduced to my tool, and it's part of the tool list. And so it's a good deal for me because they buy them regularly and then talk about them.
Yep.
Exactly.
I have a beveled edge, marking knife, and or not a knife, but a gauge, and I much prefer that to even a wheel gauge, which is kind of similar, but not a pin gauge, but like very much like the style.
Yeah, the wheel gauges are the closest approximation we can get, but there's some things you can do with a true knife gauge that a wheel gauge just won't. Part of it is depth.
Yeah, you can
like
adjust
stringing
it, right?
and banding. Yeah, you can hang the knife out as far as you want, which actually lets you reach around corners. Occasionally, in some more complicated angled joinery, you need to be able to mark on a surface that's sloping away from the beam. And so if you hang the knife out like an 1/8 inch, you can accommodate for that.
Yeah.
You can't do that with a wheel gauge.
Yeah.
But when you get into things like stringing and banding, we cut the strings with the marking gauge.
Yep.
Where you take the sheet of veneer, straighten an edge, and then just set the marking gauge to 1/8 inch, 3/16, whatever, and run it down the sheet of veneer, and it severs all the way through, and you get the string out. The other tool we use to make the strings is a pasta maker. You get the fettuccine wheel in the pasta maker, you stick the veneer in there, and it spits out like 12. It's brilliant.
Really?
Oh, that is nice.
Shockingly
Brilliant.
I would have never thought about that, but now, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right.
Well, North Bennet Street School is in the center of an Italian immigrant community.
Yes, it is. Yes,
so
it
pasta
is.
maker is a tool we have access to.
Everyone's got one.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, when I visited there, we, they gave us a nickel tour, and I go, so what's the best Italian restaurant around here? And they sent me to some place, and it was absolutely fantastic. So anyway,
you're plenty to pick from.
Yeah, there were like, you walk down the street and there were like dozens of Italian restaurants. It was pretty cool. Well, so tell us a little bit about this bookbinder finishing press that you make. That looks interesting. I mean, I'm not into bookbinding, but
it's a very similar story to the marking gauges, of where it's a critical tool to the bookbinders, and they have to use them constantly. And there's very few people making quality ones out there that are approachably priced, where there's a few people that are bookbinders that have a drill press and make them out, because you can accomplish the same job out of some 2x4s and some big box store hardware, threaded rod, whatever. And it'll work
looks
fine,
similar to a Moxon vise a little bit.
It's almost the same thing as a Moxon vise, except the jaw with the handles moves. So instead of the handles moving along the threaded rod, it moves like a bench vise, where the handle moves with the moving jaw.
Okay, so it's affixed to the jaw itself.
They are, so and it's so that the threaded rod doesn't stick out through the handle the way it does in the Moxon vise. Where the Moxon vise, it's like a nut, is just the handle is like a nut.
Yep.
So it gets used for backing and finishing in bookbinding, where you take the text block and you squeeze it between the two jaws, which allows you to work on the spine of the book. And so sewing operations, it's used in rounding the backs to get that shape so it lays flat when you open the book. And it's used for holding the text block while you're sewing the bands and sewing different parts of the book. And it's the same kind of thing. Our bookbinders need this support. The bookbinding world is so much smaller than the woodworking world and doesn't have overlap between their tools and the ability to make their tools. Whereas woodworkers can make their own marking gauges and can make their own working benches. Should they? Maybe. Maybe not. Well, we can get into that later. Bookbinders, it's not really an option for them. The training to be a bookbinder is not the training to make a bookbinding tool. So I see that, and I want to support that trade because they're doing interesting things and they need to exist. Bookbinding is not something that we can allow to shrivel away. We cannot allow that as a society.
Right.
And so if I have the skills and the ability to support that diversity of work that's going on in that shop by making this quite simple press for me, then I'm absolutely going to do it.
Okay. Now, my first question about this bookbinder's finishing press is, have you ever used it for a woodworking?
Well, so sort of. It basically is a Moxon vise.
Yeah.
It just doesn't have flat spots to then clamp it to the bench.
Exactly. Yeah.
That I am considering using the same hardware to make a Moxon vise and sell it to woodworkers. But I just don't think that's necessary because there's so many Moxon vices out there and some good ones. And it's also something that woodworkers can make themselves reasonably.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, but it's something that if it did work, you could sell the hardware. Are you making the hardware? Because I know you have some machinist stuff there.
But the only thing that I'm outsourcing on that is the handles. And so those anodized handles, those are actually an air fitting out of a tractor trailer. So they're called a hand ease, and E-threads on both ends of it. And it's so that you can thread it into the brake line for a tractor trailer. And it makes it so it's got a bigger handle so you can handle that air line when it's cold, wearing big gloves.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's the right diameter. It's designed to be worked with. It's already knurled and it's already anodized, and it's like $6. Yeah. So my first finishing press, I made the handles myself on my lathe, and they were lovely, but it took me 3 hours to make one pair. It's just not practical. Yeah. So I discovered those, and those I come in. I have to make a couple modifications on them to make them fit, but people like the color too, the red and blue.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And everything else, I'm getting the Acme rod as a standard thread Acme rod, and I'm machining that to fit the handles and to fit the nut that's in the moving jaw, and then inlaying the nut into that moving jaw. And there's a little capture plate that holds the nut into the jaw, the backside. It's a little bolts onto the back of the jaw that keeps the nut from falling out the back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's real nice. Yeah. Yeah. That would be definitely something, because I know a bunch of people sell hardware for Moxon vices. So that could be something interesting if it works out. Anyway, because
that one's relatively new. I just developed that back in February, March was the first one. So I'm still working on that. I did a prototype run, and it worked out. Prototype run sold. The bookbinding community came through for me, and they bought out the prototype run, which gave me the confidence to do another production run, which is sitting on the shelf above me right now.
Nice.
Can you get different colored handles?
No, they're just red or blue.
Red or blue. You got a choice.
That's why it says in the description on the website, handle color may vary.
Okay.
It does. I see that. That's funny.
Exactly. Well, fantastic. Now you also make these, I don't know if you're making these or outsourcing these, but these sewing keys, I guess, for bookbinders.
Sewing frame, which is for the bookbinders. And the sewing frame is basically just two posts that stick out of a flat board and are threaded. And it's so that you can tie a cord from the top of the frame down to that key, which is in a slot at the bottom of the board, and then make it taut by screwing the nuts up those posts and tensioning this frame, and then sew the book against those cords. I'm going to make it for a very similar reason to the finishing press, of where there's not a lot of quality ones out there. And a lot of our students are told when they graduate, hey, where do I go to get a sewing frame? They say, oh, well, you go and you look at antique stores, you go to Brimfield, you talk to other bookbinders, and eventually you find a good one, which is great. I mean, I love old tools, but that's not a sustainable thing that we can tell our students. How do I do bookbinding tomorrow? You can't start 2 years of searching. The other reason I'm going to make it is because one of our bookbinding instructors is a man of staggering intellect. I was telling him I was considering making a sewing frame. The earliest known image of a bookbinder from a 9th century German text, and it shows a sewing frame. I was like, oh, well, there we go. Right there. I have to do that.
Yeah.
Making this ancient tool.
Yes. Nice. But if
it worked back then, it has to be able to be worked now.
It is. Right? It's essentially unchanged.
Yeah. That's awesome.
The one from the 9th century is the same tool that I'm going to be making today.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I think we also mentioned at the top of the show that you're doing some teaching at North Bennet Street School. So tell us a little bit about that. What are you teaching, and how do we sign up?
Yeah. So my job at North Bennet Street is actually not teaching. I do occasionally wade in a little bit. My job is the community education shop technician.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I do teach a couple of times a year through our community education department. I'll do a couple of one or 2 week classes. I do some substitute teaching in the various full-time departments, and then occasionally get in on our 3-month furniture program. But my primary role is taking care of tools, spaces, and materials for all of our community education classes. So I oversee a team of student workers that take care of prepping materials for instructors. I work with the instructors to find out what their physical needs in the class are in terms of what materials they need prepped. And for woodworkers, it's we've got a dovetail class going on right now. And so I talked to that instructor. So we need 2 pieces of poplar that are 1/2 inch wide or 1/2 inch thick, 4.5 wide, and 9 long. We need 2 pieces of maple, same dimension, and we need a couple pieces of some primary wood that are milled to max thickness, 4.5 wide and 9 long. Okay, great. I then aggregate that across the whole department, all 90 something classes that we teach each, and translate that into a lumber shopping list. It's actually what I was doing today at the school. I'm going on a lumber run on Friday to pick up lumber for the next couple of months classes. Nice. Bring that in, work with the instructors to develop new curriculum and support them with new tools and whatever supplies they would need, and debuting new classes. So whenever an instructor proposes a new class, part of that process is I will talk to them about what they need to run the class and what tools we have to support that. And then we have a conversation and a negotiation about what that looks like on our end. What tools do they need? What tools can be swapped from what we currently own? And what tools would we have to buy to run this class? And is it practical to run the class? Because there's some classes we'd love to run, but it would require $10,000 in new tools. So just
right. Sure.
Sorry, we're not equipped to teach this class. Sometimes it's I need these chisels. Okay, I've got a set of 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1 inch. Okay, yeah, that'll work just fine.
Yep.
And sometimes I'd really love 3/4, and at that point I say, okay, why is the 3/4 important? What is that doing in your process that a 1/2 inch or a 1 inch won't do?
Right.
And then I translate that so that we can talk about it with the administration, and that realistically what it is I speak both languages. I speak shop and administration.
Mm-hmm.
So I can synthesize our material needs into an actual budget conversation of being able to debut new classes, working with the director of the department.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'm sure that's a valuable skill that the
it's a very
greatly appreciated.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Yes.
I mean, is that a challenge? In these modern times where like there's projects that are like, or a curriculum that is like focusing on something that maybe hasn't been done before and might require different tooling, different tools. Like as things change.
So North Bennet Street is very tool minimal. That we're an old school. We've been around since 1881. And so as a result, a lot of what we teach uses a very minimum amount of tools. There's very few things where it's, you need to go get this particular fixture to do this particular thing.
Sure.
It's a lot of our instruction is, how do I do this? Well, you take the 1 inch chisel and you just do it.
Yep.
And it's going to be hard, but
that's
once
the way we did it, and we like it.
Well, yes, and it's the students that really do well in the North Bennet program. They understand that what we're teaching is not the ultimate goal in woodworking, but it's the beginning of the path to understanding woodworking.
Yeah.
That I once had one of the class that I frequently is the fundamentals of fine woodworking, and it is weeks because series of hand tool exercises. One of my students described it as being like a monastic retreat.
Nice.
I don't know how I feel about the religious overtones on that, but I'll take
it. Sure. But it is that. I mean, I kind of rescind my question because I get it. It's meant to be fundamental and from the roots kind of education. It's not. Right. It's not CNC and 3D printers. It is, do you understand the very base of this process?
Absolutely. It's a method of thought is what we're really teaching.
Right.
And a method of thought coupled with an understanding of material. One of our instructors famously said that we could do it with a folding table on a rock. Everything else just makes it easier.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's part of it. That's, there are, in woodworking, normally there are 100 different ways to do things, but if you learn the base way with a base number of tools, you can accomplish that task. Now, if it's something you're doing over and over again, you might look at some different tooling, but if you're only going to do it, if you're only going to do it once or twice or something like that, hey, here's the minimum tool set you need to accomplish that task.
And we have those conversations with our students. Things like planing a board flat. Every student that comes through hand planes a board to exactly flat. It's part of the exercise. And then we teach them how to use the joiner and planer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
And we teach it in such a way that they understand the process of what makes it flat by hand for two reasons. One, so that they understand what the machine is doing for them. And two, there will be a time where the part is too big or too small for their machine. And having that lesson of how to make it perfectly flat with your hand plane through just a very simple system of measurement is going to be a valuable thing. Where if we took them in the shop, said, hey, here's the 22-inch wide planer. You put your board in and it comes out flat. That would be a disservice to them, because when they get out into the world, they're not going to have a 22-inch wide planer. They might have a 12. Well, what happens if they have an 18-inch wide board? Well, we have just equipped them to fail.
Yep.
That's
I took calculus in high school, and I vividly remember the lesson before to how to find a oh God, what was it? You
vividly remember it.
Obviously. I vividly remember it, and I can see it on the chalkboard, but I can't think of the name. A derivative. And so there was this long thing about how to calculate a derivative. And then the next day he was like, oh yeah, you take the power that it is, you reduce it by 1, you multiply it by that, and then reduce the this. And it was like earth shaking. Like, and I don't use it in life, but it was like, there is a complicated way to do things, but through time and knowledge, there are simplified ways of accomplishing the same thing. And that is that can be so profound in an education sense. But like that's exactly that. Like, if you can learn the tough route to go through the thing, and then find out there's a somewhat different, easier, simpler path, it only educates you further.
Absolutely true.
Yep. Totally agree. Well, switching topics a little bit, what are some of the favorite projects that you've made? Now, this could be tool making too, but I'm just looking at, in your woodworking career, so to speak, what's some of your favorite things that you've made so far?
Town is the big one. Wooden building. It's a timber frame, because it allows me to support a wider, more diverse community of woodworkers with the knowledge that I've been able to gain through the privilege that I have. And I have 19 tenants that all share the space and equipment. And by having built this shop this way, I'm able to support those people starting in their careers in what can be a very difficult sphere to start through. I was afforded a lot of privilege to be able to gain this knowledge. So it's very important for me to be able to push it out as far as possible into the world. So through building the shop, I can build a wider community for a wider sphere of knowledge. And my woodworking gets better because of that, because I have more people around me generating more ideas, bringing in more knowledge and more information into this shop. And we have some phenomenal work that happens as a direct result of that collaboration. It never happened. We weren't all here together in this little world.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's an 1890s building. Yeah, so this was a teaming building, and it's an 1890s timber frame. And so we brought in some North Bennet Street alumni to work on the building. When we found this building, it was actually, let me go one step backwards. So this building is owned by an LLC that was started by a classmate of mine at North Bennet who was in his early 50s when we were students, and he was looking for shop space when we got out of school. The initial plan was we were going to find a space, rent it, and it'd be big enough for like 4 or 5 people. Because here in the city, space is hard to come by. And our vision spiraled out of control a little bit, because it turns out that at that time, this would have been in 2011, just immediately post-crash, that space was at a huge premium, and all of the old industrial space was being bought up by private equity and turned into lofts, condos, high-end retail, all sorts of stuff that prices us out. So it became clear that renting a space was not practical and for the long-term stability of the shop. So we started looking at purchasing a property, and we found out that there is very few properties that are in the like 2,500 to 4,000 square foot price range, but there were a lot in the 9,000 square foot range. And so the vision grew from 4 or 5 people into maybe 16, maybe 20, which is where we are now. There's me and 19 other people in here. And so it was a multi-year process of acquiring the building and renovating it. The company that we bought it from was an architectural lighting company doing high-end commercial lighting, some reproduction work, some new work, really, really fancy stuff. And they were moving out. We wanted it. And so we bought the building, and it was a dump. It was cheap in a bad neighborhood in Charlestown. The last pocket of bad neighborhood in Charlestown. It's great. My neighbors are an abandoned junkyard, a pasta factory, and the bus yard. It means we can make all the noise we want.
Exactly.
Yes. Important.
All the noise we want. Yes. And so we brought in some North Bennet people to help renovate the building. Our plan was do some patch and fix, start moving people in, start getting the woodworking thing going. Every single thing we peeled back revealed 9 other things that needed to be fixed.
Right.
And yes,
remodeling. That's what it is.
Yes, on a grand scale. And when we discovered that this building, because this building was built around the time electricity was becoming a thing, it had been fully rewired no less than 5 times with continually updated new electric stuff. The last one probably having been in the 1950s or maybe early 60s. And we discovered very scary wiring. And so we made the decision to bring in a little bit more professional contractor and go a little bit bigger. And it was a great decision because we have a fabulous now that's self-sustaining. And so we were able to renovate the building and make it so that it's a safe, sustainable place for 20 people to start their careers and finish their careers in some cases, continuing to work. We have a range of spaces so that people can grow in the shop. And hopefully this building will continue to be here for a long time.
Nice.
The only way we would move is if somebody dropped enough money on us to where it would be a guaranteed survival. Where if somebody came along and said, huge sack of cash if you leave, and it would give me the power to have a bigger building with more people doing more things, and then have some kind of endowment left over to protect us from future vacation, I would absolutely do it.
Yeah. Living in a house that's not as old as that building, but was built in the 50s. I recognize your electrical concerns, and it's good that you upgraded. I had the joy of moving in nearly 20 years ago, and when I plugged in my dryer, I saw a spark shoot out of a junction box, only to find out that some like creosote tape was around what was a 50 amp breaker line that fed both the stove and the dryer in the original wiring.
That'll do it.
That'll do it. Thankfully, I grew up with a father who is a patron of the show, but also a career electrician, and so he came to the rescue and rewired the crucial parts of the house for that endeavor. It was eye-opening for sure.
Good move.
Yes.
Yeah.
It also allowed us to put a solar array on the roof, which was another great decision.
Oh yeah, no, that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, my next thought is to just upgrade the electrical service, and kind of that'll push a bit of upgrade of wiring, but that's fine. I have an exposed basement; I can get through most of it. But yeah, definitely modernizing some of the stuff that's now half a century plus old.
Yes,
definitely a good decision.
So how long did it take y'all to get the building into, usable shape?
So we did it in stages. And so we had a core group of people that were ready to move in more or less at the beginning. And so we started the process, got the interior done, got the machine room done,
and then got things like the floors and walls in, and then had 5 or 6 people move in. But that was with the caveat that the crew was still going to be here roofing, working on the upstairs bench room, doing the siding outside, doing parking lot work. There'd be a bunch of stuff going on. That overlap phase went on for another 6 months or so, until we were totally done, and then started renting out full time. All in, the process was 1.5 years, almost 2 years.
That's not bad. That's not bad, really.
That isn't bad, actually.
Yeah, all things considered. So do you have, speaking of electrical, so do you have 3-phase in there, or is it?
You
do.
That they have a 1,000 amp 3-phase service.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
That's full, like industrial.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We are in a neighborhood that was the center of industry in this area for a long time. So one of the services we removed was actually, we had more power before we removed it. When we moved in, we had a 550 volt 3-phase line. We had a 440 3-phase. We had,
oh, wow.
Yeah, we had a 300 volt 2-phase supply, which
what the
no
hell?
idea how long it had been there, but it was still being supplied. And there was available in the street a 600 volt direct current.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
This building is in the shadow of what would have been one of the most major elevated rail stations in the city. The entire operates on 600 volt direct current.
Yeah, I don't think there's any machinery that could handle that in decent capacity.
Yeah, well, sometimes I wish I still had it, because my bandsaw is a 550 volt motor.
Yeah.
I have to run a transformer now.
Yeah, I would say but you'd have to let that down, wouldn't you? If it was 600 coming in, I mean, it has to be slightly reduced.
Yeah, but that would be a direct current.
Yeah. So you have to phase it.
Yeah, the direct current one, they're totally useless. I don't have any DC motors.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's a high ass power DC motor. Jesus,
I did not want 600 volt direct current anywhere in this building.
No.
On the street is a little concerning.
Wow, that is something. Well, at least you can, charge electric vehicles or something like that. I don't know, put you a fast charger out there or something. Anyway, wow, that's amazing. So, tell us a little bit about some of the machinery you have out there, because I've gone through your Instagram and looked at some of it, and yeah, you got some nice big old iron, so to speak, in that shop.
Well, I do. And I went out searching for it in that period where the building was under renovation. So David, the building owner that I graduated North Bennet with, during the renovation process, we split the responsibility, where he had the background and the finances to support the building. I had the experience and the time to be able to support the shop. And so it was a great pairing of abilities and pairing of time. So while he was dealing with the contractors on the renovation, I was out hunting machinery. And because I had a protracted period of time, I was able to really heavily curate what I was looking for. So I started with a goal of just getting us functional. So in the beginning, we had one joiner, one planer, and they were small and they was fine. And we had a small job site table saw, and it worked out great. But that opened up enough space for me to be able to then go out and really look and find some good pieces. So one of the big secrets in vintage machinery is that the bigger it gets, the cheaper it gets.
Yeah.
That's what everybody forgets. So it was because my joiner, I have 2 Porter Model C joiners. One is a 12-inch, and it's from 1939. The other is a 24. And so it's a huge joiner. It's 24-inch cutter head. It weighs 2 tons, but it has a 10-horse motor on it, and it draws 78 amps on startup.
My God.
Wow.
Most couldn't support that. So it's not even an option. So even serious home shop couldn't start that machine. So as a result, I paid half the price for the 24-inch that I did for the 12s.
That's astounding.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's so many fewer people that are equipped to house it, to power it, to move it.
Now, are you upgrading? So these big joiners and stuff, are you all upgrading those with, like segmented cutter heads and stuff like that? Or is it strictly knives?
The 24-inch is still straight knives.
Yeah.
Because it's a 4-knife head. And I sought out the Porter Model C joiner because it has a large diameter cutter head. So its cutting circle is almost 7 inches. So
Wow.
with 4 knives on a 7-inch diameter head, it leaves an incredibly smooth surface and for a straight knife machine. And you also have the ability with a 24-inch wide machine to set the fence at an angle of up to 30 degrees. So you get a shearing effect. Same way when you're using a hand plane, you skew it and
Yeah.
thing can happen on a wide joiner.
Oh, that makes complete sense. I never thought about it. I've never used one, but I've seen them.
10-inch wide board,
Mhm.
I can run it corner to corner, back corner on the in feed, front corner on the out feed, and you get this skewed surface and it just comes out really nice. The 12-inch I have fully rebuilt.
Mhm.
So the 12-inch, I put a bird head in it, and the bird head is pretty good. When we put it in, I learned something about bird and I learned something about porter at the same time. And they both have different philosophies on where you should balance an assembly. So it turns out that bird believes you should balance the cutter head. Porter believes you should balance the rotor in the motor. So it's a direct drive machine.
Mhm.
So bird sent me a cutter head that had been balanced. I then put the rotor from the machine back onto that cutter head, and it always vibrated. And it's because Porter had balanced it as an assembly back in 1939.
Sure.
Yeah.
Vibrating, just constantly vibrating. Not enough to affect it, but enough to where like the push stick would rattle off the end of the table. So a
Mhm.
few years ago, I got sick of that. And knowing what I know about machines, that wiring inside that direct drive motor was just being constantly shaken by that vibration. And it was going to fail at some point because it has varnish in there that keeps it from shorting out. And that varnish is from 1939. So they're just constantly vibrating. And if it shorted out, the motor would be completely dead. And
Yeah.
rewinding a dead motor is much more difficult than rewinding a working motor because you can't test the dead motor. If it's got a short in it, you can't attach leads to it and see what's in there.
Right.
Mhm.
Of course.
And so I decided to send it out, have the whole thing dynamically balanced, and have a new motor custom built inside the original motor shell. And it cost a lot of money, but we are still into that joiner for less than the cost of a 12-inch Powermatic spiral head joiner.
Yeah.
The cutter head and the custom rebuilt motor. And so as a result, I now have a machine that was designed to work for several lifetimes and was designed to be worked on and designed to be maintained. And it's got a brand new motor from, I think 4 years ago I did that in it. And it's got the
Mhm.
cutter head from 10, 12 years ago. So in my mind, it's the perfect machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
balance.
yeah. And
1939
there's something else to be said for that old steel, man. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's production equipment. It was made to be used and abused, and
Hell
take
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also, it was very expensive in its period. That's what
Yes.
everybody thinks. They don't make them like they used to. I was like, well, yeah, that's true to a certain extent, but it was also very expensive in its period. That joiner in 1939 would have been the equivalent of like $35,000 or $40,000.
Yeah. It's the one depreciating value proposition, right? Like this old stuff that would have been terribly expensive back then because of the very little support and ability to use it. Now it becomes drastically cheaper. Wild.
Right. I paid, I think, $1,800 for it.
Nice.
That's phenomenal. But again,
Yeah,
it's because you have that space. I can't squeeze that thing into my basement.
Sure, you can. Sure, you can. Just rig it down the stairs.
Yeah.
I got a piano I'm trying to get rid of. That's enough of a task.
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
a
So
Steinway or a Mason and Hamlin?
What's that?
Is it either a Steinway or a Mason and Hamlin?
It is not either. It is an
Oh.
upright that was painted 1960s green by the previous people who lived in this house, which were my wife's family. I won't disparage them, but it's been here for the 20 years I've lived here. It was in the basement from the get-go. I can lift one side of it, but I don't think I can deadlift it up the stairs by any means. So it's going to be a task.
yeah, well,
Yes.
you just need to take a look at that soundboard and see what it has cast.
It has a
into it.
name. I forget the name. Looked it up, and it's not quite in the fine antiques, but yes, for sure somebody made the soundboard that's in this frame,
Mhm.
and it's something. I
Okay.
don't know the value of that, and I actually know I have a friend that is him and his father run a piano restoration company. So I have some knowledge of what it's. I need to reach out to them, but I have access to the knowledge of what that's actually worth.
Yeah. Well, good. Good.
The
Well, so
has a piano department.
Oh,
yes.
oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. My wife really enjoyed that. My wife is a concert pianist, and she teaches a bunch, and yeah, she really dig that little area of the old school, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
I learned piano for some 6-7 years in my younger life. I remember very basics. I learned how to read music mainly from learning piano, which was awesome, but I'm not playing piano by any means.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things that going through the Instagram of all the interesting tools and stuff is you have one of those little Hammond, what are those typesetter crosscut saws?
Hammond.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are so cool. I've always wanted one of those. So how do y'all like that?
So that one is my personal saw. I have it in my bench space,
Okay.
and it has essentially replaced a chop saw for me.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
That it does nothing but cut square. The blade cannot be beveled, and the crosscut sense cannot be angled. So it is always absolute 90.
Okay.
Great. So
And true
I use it, yes.
that. Okay. That's very, very important.
From parts to length, it is absolutely superb. I learned about those saws when I was in college. I worked for the design school while I was doing my history degree, and one of the shop managers had one in his office. I was like, oh, this thing's cool. I should look for one of those. And came across a couple, but the time was never really right. And then I found this one, God, it would have been 10, 12 years ago now, misspelled on Craigslist. That when you're looking for always search for misspellings of the words.
100%.
This one was being sold as a tablet saw.
Okay.
Tablet saw.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, so as a result, it had sat there for 2 weeks and no one had noticed it. And because they're weird, funky things, people who know really know. People that don't know don't know. And so fortunately, I had a little experience with one, and so I was able to recognize it in the photos, and I went for it immediately. Fortunately, it required no restoration. It was in great shape. I got very lucky accessories that came with it, and it had the correct motor on it. A lot of them have come into the woodworking field because of a couple of reasons. One, there was an article in 2002 from, I think, Fine Woodworking published it and said, you should buy this saw. And so a lot of people bought them. The problem is that article also said, you should buy this saw and butcher it.
Mm-hmm.
They were cutting them apart to put regular T-square fences on them, so you could just use it as an all-rounder table saw.
Sure.
They were doing that because at that period, typeset newspapers were closing all over the country, where in the 90s, there were still a lot of small town papers that were casting type with a machine called a linotype. And the linotype casts slugs of type where it'll cast 4 or 5 lines at column width. And then you use the Hammond to trim it to fit into the chase to then lock it up and print it. And so every printing company in the country had a couple of these machines. Digitization started reaching the small newspapers in the 90s. As a result, all of these Hammond saws were getting sold and scrapped between kind of 95 and 05. So you could pick them up for nothing back then. And so woodworkers were grabbing them and doing goofy stuff to make them into table saws. So a lot of people learned about them that way. And then word got out on the internet that they exist and they are good. And so the prices have unfortunately shot up. And that's because the stock has gotten less. There's fewer closing newspapers now than there were even 15 years ago.
Yeah.
No, I guess, that might happen.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that I've always seen those. I've always wanted one because that's what I've always heard. Hey, it's dead 90, boom, boom, boom. It's a cross-cutting machine.
Yep.
It is probably the densest machine I own too. It's not very big. It has a footprint of maybe 5 square feet, and it weighs 500 pounds.
Dense. Very dense.
is an incredibly well-built machine. But again, it's another one of these ones that was built to be extraordinarily high quality. That's actually why the Hammond Company ceased to exist. It's because their machines were so good that they never broke.
Oh, sure. Never had to
Yeah.
repair, never had to replace. Yeah, wild.
Yeah, and there are only so many newspapers eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, interesting stuff. Well, I tell you, I need to come out there to Charleston and take a look at that shop, because I'm sure I could spend days in there looking at everything. So
Come on by.
You got some nice stuff there. But before we let you go, tell us a little bit about any other pursuits you have outside of woodwork.
Not really that much.
Not really that much.
I have signed up for a North Bennet class next month that is going to be lino cut printing.
Oh, we were just talking about that. Kind of, sort of.
Yeah, so I am consciously resisting getting into printing presses because they already do it for me, because they're funky, they're old, they're cast iron, they go clink, clink, clink.
Yep, they go clink, clink, clink.
Yeah, it's woodworking machinery, but quieter.
Sure.
And so I already like them. I have a little bit of experience with some historic printing equipment. And so I am resisting falling down that additional rabbit hole. And I decided I'm wait a few years. That can be retirement for me. I can screw around with printing presses.
There you go. Well, yeah. Hopefully they're not all scrapped by then. Who knows?
Oh no, I need to grab a couple on the way so that I can print theory literature.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. Well, fantastic. Well, let's move on to our fortnightly beer choices. And I'm still just drinking water because I'm taking meds that are bad enough for my liver, and I don't need to put beer on top of it.
Fair. Heal up, buddy.
Exactly. Sean, what are you drinking?
In contrast, I went to my local beer store today and I got a local brew that I had not seen before. This Inside the Five Brewery is a local guy and wife who started a restaurant bar, and it's branched out. I think they might have 3 locations now. But the whole Inside the Five thing is actually it's a football reference, which is funny. He was a punter for the Miami Dolphins briefly.
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about this guy. Yeah.
And so this one, for I don't know the reason, but they call it mile marker 0, but I think it's because of Key West, which is very far away from us.
Yes.
But it's a key lime pie ale, which is an interesting adventure. It is punchy with a key lime. In a good way. I don't mind like a little tartness, a little lime.
So it's not a sour or anything.
It's not sour per se.
Yeah.
It's because it's got like a sweetness in it too.
Yeah.
To kind of like mellow that a little bit. But very interesting. I haven't seen this in the restaurant. I haven't been in the restaurant in a month or more, so I don't know. Maybe they've got it locally, but this was like canned and available in the cooler. So very interesting. But I'm sorry, but if you're not around my area, you can't have it. Well, so Bob, what are you sipping on this evening?
Well, I am still in the shop, so nothing.
Good for you. But
yes, very important.
Yes.
On the rare occasion that I do drink beer these days, it's always something local, because I always strive to support the people that are around me.
Absolutely.
So it'd be local breweries to Boston, New England, of which there are plenty.
There are a lot. Yes.
Would most likely not be anything even remotely related to key lime, because I think the beer is wrong. I want beer.
I will try everything. My wife loves IPAs. I don't. I like stout. She doesn't. But sours are kind of my jam. And so I like something that's brewed to be funky, to be salty, to be tangy, that's my thing.
Oh, good. I want those beers to exist because I want them out there innovating, doing interesting things.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying new stuff. Right.
I also just want straight up ale.
Yep.
I'm with you.
I'm with you too there. Well, with that, Bob, where can folks find you on the interwebs?
Mass Woodworks. The various social medias are Mass Woodworks, and the website is masswoodworks.com.
Okay, cool.
Very cool.
And well, once again, Bob, thank you so much for joining us. We highly appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right. And that just about wraps it up for this show. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the show on the podcatcher of your choice. Just search for the Modern Woodworkers Association. And while you're there, please leave us a review. You can follow us on Instagram at MWA_podcast. And if you'd like to support the podcast, go over to patreon.com/MWA podcast. But the best thing you can do is tell a friend. Word of mouth goes a long way in sharing our discussion.